Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something fascinating. We're going to try and shatter some of those old stereotypes about Ice Age humans. You know, the usual picture, primitive folks, isolated, just surviving in caves. Well, the source material we're looking at today paints a very different picture. It suggests they were incredibly sophisticated, resilient, and maybe most importantly, cooperative.
That's exactly right. We're basing this deep dive on an article, How the Ice Age Forged the First Global Civilization. And it really is a total reinterpretation of the period. It's not just guesswork. It's based on solid, tangible evidence. We're basically going on a journey here to uncover, well, what amounts to a forgotten global society. It's quite something.
And the thing that really kicks this whole new look off is a discovery, right? A deer tooth pendant. 20,000 years old.
Yes, that pendant.
And it sounds like, okay, maybe just ancient jewelry at first glance. But this tiny thing, it had human DNA on it. And it wasn't just, an accessory. It's being called a key.
A key, exactly.
A key to understanding this whole network of Ice Age ingenuity, proving the owner was part of something, well, much more advanced.
The implications are huge just from that one artifact. As we dig into the evidence today, you're going to see some, frankly, startling sophistication. We're talking advanced tech, ambitious architecture.
Architecture in the Ice Age.
Oh, yes. And vast trade networks, symbolic communication, even biological adaptations. And the big one, cooperation, their sort of superpower. You'll start to understand how this incredibly cold period, these sort of apocalyptic conditions, actually set the stage for modern civilization.
Okay, so that's the big picture. Where do we start unpacking the details? The source mentions bone needles, surgical level precision. That sounds improbable. What did they actually find? What were they like?
Well, improbable is what you might think, but the evidence is there. Up near the Yana River in Siberia, they found nearly 192 to be exact, perfectly made bone needles. And the materials are interesting too. Fox bone for flexibility, lynx for strength, even hare bone for really delicate work.
Wow, different bones for different needs.
Exactly. And under an electron microscope, perfect circular eye holes, microscopic spiral patterns. That suggests some kind of advanced drilling technique. This wasn't just poking holes.
So not just basic tools. This implies
what?
Clothing.
A whole prehistoric textile industry, essentially. Making complex, multi-layered clothing, even underwear, potentially. Stuff perfectly designed for Arctic survival. It's genuine engineering for its time.
Okay, from tiny needles to giant structures. You mentioned architecture. Mammoth bone megastructures. What on earth did they find? Where was this?
Mezherish in Ukraine, they found these incredible buildings made from the bones of 149 mammoths.
149 mammoths per building.
Well, used in the construction of the settlements buildings. And these weren't just, temporary huts. They were permanent homes, multi-generational. They had ivory joints, suspended floors, probably for ventilation, maybe even basic heating systems integrated.
That's staggering. How did they even manage that? The logistics alone.
Yep.
Lifting mammoth skulls and tusks.
Right. It implies a serious understanding of things like load-bearing principles, thermodynamics.
And logistics, like you said.
Yeah.
Almost like early urban planning.
Definitely. These places had separate rooms, nurseries, workshops. It shows incredible foresight, organization, far beyond that simple nomadic image.
And speaking of organization, pan-continental trade. During the Ice Age, that sounds like another leap. The source talks about obsidian, amber, seashells traveling huge distances.
Yeah, hundreds, even thousands of miles. Obsidian from specific volcanic zones found 300 miles away.
Okay.
Seashells from the Mediterranean turning up in Central Europe. Amber from the Baltic near the Black Sea. It's quite the map.
So this wasn't just accidental finds or people wandering randomly.
The evidence points towards a systematic, organized trade economy. It suggests cooperative logistics, real connections between distant communities. Long before cities and writing as we know them, it just proves these complex social and economic systems were already operating, moving resources and probably ideas too.
Which brings us back to that pendant. The deer tooth with the DNA. The DNA linked to North Eurasian populations, right?
Right.
Which fits that network idea. The article suggests it was more than just pretty.
Absolutely. It points to these incredibly sophisticated social systems. Symbolic systems, these weren't just tools or ornaments for practical reasons. They were like markers of identity, belonging, passports for cooperation, almost.
Like membership badges for these networks.
Kind of, yeah. It shows a depth of social organization we just haven't typically credited them with.
Okay, so we've got advanced tools, architecture, trade, social markers. What about art? The source mentions Venus figurines, places like Dolny Vistanis, early ceramics even,
Yes, and displaying artistry that's been compared to Renaissance levels, which is quite a statement.
and cave paintings, showing mixed regional styles. What does that suggest?
It suggests this shared consciousness, a deliberate exchange of artistic techniques, symbolic meanings, again, across vast distances. These weren't isolated artists. And then there are the biological adaptations, which are also remarkable.
Yes.
Ice Age humans developed enhanced lung capacity, more efficient mitochondrial systems, their cellular energy factories. They got better at extracting and storing calories.
Better than other hominins.
Significantly better. Neanderthals, for example, needed maybe 40% more calories. Our ancestors adapted for maximum output on minimal input. It let them thrive in those conditions.
And they were chemists, too.
Yeah.
Food technologists.
Seems like it. Kiem Cave in Israel, evidence of controlled fires, really hot, 500 degrees Fahrenheit. They made waterproof glues from birch bark. Sophisticated stuff.
Wow. And food preservation. Bone marrow.
Yes. Kept fresh for up to 9 weeks, apparently, by preserving deer bones with the skin and flesh still attached. It's basically the first known food preservation method.
It really paints a picture of incredible resourcefulness, understanding seasons, planning ahead.
Definitely. Sophisticated strategies. A deep understanding of their environment and how to manage its resources for the long haul.
So if you pull all this together, the tools, the houses, the trade, the art, the biology, the food tech, what's the main takeaway? The article seems to land on something pretty revolutionary. Cooperation.
Yes. That's the core insight, really. Their true superpower wasn't just a clever tool, it was their ability to cooperate, not just within their own small group, but across tribes. This is where they seem to have differed from, say, Neanderthals or Denisovans,
Who tended to compete more locally.
The evidence suggests so. Homo sapiens, on the other hand, built these alliances.
And these alliances, these networks, what did they enable?
Resource sharing, for one, absorbing refugees or smaller groups, and critically, the rapid spread of technology and new ideas. The result was this continent-spanning civilization, much more resilient, much more adaptable than isolated groups could ever be.
So cooperation, not just competition, was the key to survival and success.
It looks that way, and it seems to have actually accelerated their evolution biologically and socially in a relatively short time frame.
It's truly incredible. Thinking about it, all the precision needles, the mammoth bone cities, those huge trade networks, it really flips the script. Ice Age humans weren't just inventors or engineers. They were master logisticians. And their biggest innovation was working together.
Exactly. And if you step back even further, that's the source's most profound point. Cooperation was the ultimate advantage. Alliances, sharing, rapid innovation spread. That's what Homo sapiens leveraged so effectively compared to others. They essentially turbocharged their own development socially and maybe even biologically.
So the legacy, it's huge. The first real global society wasn't born from farming or cities as we usually think. It emerged from dealing with extreme cold.
That's the argument. And those early trade routes, they likely formed the basis for later agricultural spread.
And the meeting points became early settlements, maybe early cities.
Plausibly, yes. And their complex ways of communicating, symbolic communication, that probably laid the groundwork for eventual written language.
So a final thought then.
Well, what's really fascinating here is that when humanity faced perhaps its most extreme environmental challenge ever, the greatest innovation wasn't the specific tool or technology, it was the ability to connect, to cooperate. If you connect that to the bigger picture, what does it tell you, what does it tell us about the real engines of human progress, especially when we're facing new global challenges today?
That is definitely something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Ice Age ingenuity. It certainly makes you reconsider our history and maybe its implications for our interconnected world right now.
Yeah.